The house built on a hare. In Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, Episode 1 does not begin with Warren Jeffs as a monster dropping out of the sky. It begins with a house already built to receive him. That is what makes it dangerous. The film shows an FLDS world under Rulon Jeffs, where the structure is already in place. Plural marriage is not presented as one option among many. It is presented as the way to the highest degree of salvation. The men are told that more wives and more children bring them higher. Higher where? Higher toward becoming gods. That is the first hook. Not simple obedience, cosmic ambition, a ladder to godhood. But the ladder is not leaning against heaven. It is leaning against lack. Because before anyone can climb, the system first has to convince them of one thing. You are not enough as you are. That is the true flaw of the house. Not faith, not love, lack. The women in the documentary are not simply told to marry. They are taught from childhood that their role is obedience, adoration, sweetness, placement. The men are not simply told to lead families. They are taught that their eternal status depends on wives, children, priesthood rank, prophetic favor. So everyone is already standing inside the same invisible sentence. Not enough yet. Not holy enough yet. Not obedient enough yet. Not chosen enough yet. And once that sentence is accepted, the prophet becomes necessary. Because if a person is told he is not enough, he will look for the one who claims to know how to complete him. If a girl is told her salvation depends on surrender, she will be trained to call fear devotion. If a whole people are told that heaven has conditions, then the man who names the conditions becomes more important than their own perception. That is why the prophet in the documentary is not merely a preacher. He is positioned as the living bridge between insufficiency and God. Then comes the second metaphor. Perfect obedience is led by a hare. That line is not small. That line is the entire machine. A hare is the most revealing image they could have used. A hare cannot carry weight. A hare cannot support a soul. A hare cannot hold a marriage, a family, a conscience, a future, or a vision of God. A hare can only create tension. And a hare breaks easily. That means the obedience being demanded is not difficult in a normal human sense. It is impossible by design. It must be. Because if the standard were reachable, someone could arrive. And if someone arrived, the prophet would no longer be needed as the keeper of the gate. So the standard has to stay fragile enough to fail. That way, every crack in the life of the follower can be blamed on the follower, not on the teaching. If the marriage feels wrong, the hare broke because of you. If the prophet's command feels unnatural, the hare broke because of you. If your own heart recoils, the hare broke because of you. If the promised world does not come, the hare broke because of you. That is why the phrase, "keep sweet," matters so much in Episode 1. It sounds gentle. It sounds harmless. It sounds almost cute, especially with the stickers and even the words written on shoes. But in practice it means this. Do not trust the signal coming from your own soul. Do not let anger tell you that something is wrong. Do not let disgust tell you that a violation is a violation. Do not let grief become a question. Do not let a question become a thought. Do not let a thought become a voice. Keep sweet means keep the hare from breaking by disappearing before it does. Now bring in Alta Academy. Books removed. Outside influence purged.
science cut up. Girls taught purity in a way that empties the mind of selfhood and fills it with prophetic will. That is not education. That is climate control. It is the ceiling of the house. Because if a house is built on a hair, it cannot survive open windows. Fresh air is dangerous to a fragile lie. A library is dangerous. Curiosity is dangerous. Nancy Drew is dangerous. The solar system is dangerous. Reproduction is dangerous. Reality is dangerous whenever control depends on managed innocence. Then the documentary gives the next movement. Rulon has the stroke. He weakens. He forgets names. He cannot hold the image that the system built around him. And Warren steps in so completely that even access to the father is controlled. That moment is crucial, because now the film is showing that the house was never truly built on Rulon as a person. It was built on succession inside belief.
The chair matters more than the man. The role matters more than the body in it. That is why Warren can begin speaking as though the father continues through him. That is why wives are called up to validate dreams and revelations that confirm the transfer. That is why the confusion at the funeral does not break the structure. It only creates hunger for a new holder of the hair. Even the failed prophecy around the Salt Lake Olympics reveals the same loop. Sell your homes, leave your businesses, gather in Short Creek. The end is coming. The earth will burn. Be faithful enough, and the righteous land will rise. Then nothing happens. Now, in any sane framework, that failure should break the authority behind the claim. But in this house, it does not. Why? Because the people have already been taught that the answer to disappointment is not doubt. It is deeper obedience. So the failed prophecy is reinterpreted as mercy. God gave more time. Which means what? Which means you still are not good enough. You still must become more obedient. You still must keep sweet. You still must stay on the ladder. Now the three metaphors lock together. The hair is the impossible standard. Not enough is the emotional fuel. Becoming God is the unreachable reward. That is the loop. You are not enough, so climb. You climb by obeying the prophet. Your obedience is measured by a hair, so you fail. Your failure proves you are not enough. So the promise of becoming God stays in the future. And because it stays in the future, you keep climbing. That is not a spiritual path. That is a treadmill, disguised as a staircase. And the cruel genius of it is that every part of it explains every other part. Why plural marriage? Because heaven is being sold as status. Why the prophet? Because lack needs an interpreter. Why keep sweet? Because pain must be silenced before it becomes evidence. Why isolation? Because false ladders hate outside light. Why Warren? Because any structure built on insufficiency will eventually produce a man willing to call himself the answer. That is what episode 1 is really showing. Not just a religion gone strange. Not just polygamy. Not just a controlling father and a more sinister son. It is showing how a closed spiritual house can be built so that no one inside is ever allowed to simply be whole. Because wholeness would end the business model. If a woman knew she was whole, she could not be traded upward into somebody else's heaven. If a man knew he was whole, he would not need more wives to prove celestial worth. If a child knew she was whole, she would not confuse fear with holiness. If the people knew they were whole,
the prophet would become just another man talking. And that is the collapse. The whole house depends on convincing people they are one wife, one child, one command, one revelation, one apocalypse, one degree of obedience away from finally being enough to become what they never stopped being. The lie is not merely that they can become God. The lie is that God is a promotion. The lie is that truth sits at the top of a ladder built by men. The lie is that a hair can lead a soul anywhere worth going. And once that is seen, the house does not need to be attacked. It has already begun to fall.